Hi, everyone. This is Evelyn with the Wright State Lake Campus Career Perspectives podcast. And I'm so happy to once again be with an employer, specifically Mercer Landmark, and Marissa Gibbons, the Director of Human Resources. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, it's so amazing to me that your second word of your company name is Landmark because since 1933, when they started, a landmark is exactly what you all have been for the central and west Ohio farmers and residents. And because we can see grain elevators from Mercer Landmark miles away, it will be no surprise to people that you store and market corn and soybean and wheat. But I feel like for the people who don't already work with Mercer Landmark or take advantage of your many services, they'll be really surprised to learn what else you do.
Right.
And I think they'll be really interested as well. You know, a lot of people don't know that Mercer Landmark, they offer agronomy services. Like they have employees that will go and spread fertilizer on fields.
Right.
They also don't know that you all sell, oh my gosh, you all sell animal feed and seed, poultry litter, diesel, gasoline, propane, crop insurance. You don't see those from looking at the silo, right? But then also, I think people, especially in Salina, where I am right now, this is where Mercer Landmark is, they don't realize that you're not just this facility.
Right.
You all have 22 facilities. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yep, that is right.
And you also even operate Mercer Soy.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, they're about doing everything here. So, I'm really excited to share everything Mercer Landmark has to offer with you all. Not only because I think you all need to be aware of their services, but also there's so many job opportunities. Just like Marissa Gibbons is in human resources, you know, they have everything from ag opportunities to business opportunities. Someone at some point had to create your logo, so that would have been a graphic design person. So without further ado, we're going to get into our questions. And for those of you who already follow the podcast, you already know the first question I'm going to ask. And that is, what do hiring managers wish more applicants knew? So when someone comes to apply to you, what do you just wish they either knew to do on their application or maybe in an interview?
Well, a couple things. I mean, that's a really good question. I think first, when an applicant shows up for an interview, what I wish that they would know is a couple things. One, be on time, if not a little bit early. Also, come dressed for the position that you want. So, in ag specifically, if you showed up in a suit and tie, it would look a little bit funny. So, they always say, like, maybe a step up from what you're looking for. So, as you can see, I'm wearing just a standard polo and jeans today. So if somebody came in with nice dress pants and, a nice shirt, that would be plenty good enough. Always kind of a step up from what you're looking. But I always am a little surprised if somebody shows up in a full suit and tie to work out on a field.
Yeah,
So.
they probably feel like, wow, they're showing that I really want this job. But you're probably thinking, I'm not sure they know our company.
Right.
I'm not sure they know what they're going to be doing.
Right.
So
Yep.
That's such a great tip. Well, along kind of the same line, so that's what you wish they knew.
Yep.
What are red flags beyond clothing? And it can either be in an interview or their application themselves.
Sure. So, I mean, a couple things. One, on a resume itself, I would say the first thing that I'm going to notice is a grammatical error or a spelling error. And they show up. You would think that people would have them looked over before they turn them in, but it is very apparent immediately. And if you have 10 different candidates and there's 2 with spelling errors, you might just automatically discard them.
That's such a good point, and I know there's a lot of majors on campus who I work with, and they almost feel, oh, why do I have to take English classes at Wright State?
Right.
And it's because we know this. Grammatical errors, they can suggest to employers that you didn't really spend a lot of time on this. You kind of worked on your application during a commercial on Netflix.
Yeah.
They want to know you really wanted to work with them and you had it looked over. And especially if you're a Wright State student and you have access to me, your career advisors, who looks over your resume and finds those grammatical errors for you, there's really no reason to really not put your best foot forward. And you might have heard or mentioned that, if there's 10 applications, yours is going to stick out in a bad way if there's a grammatical error.
Right.
That's a really good point, that it's competitive when people apply.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
you need to behave as such,
Right.
like
It
put your best foot
almost can
forward.
come across as a laziness,
Yeah.
if you don't take the time to look at that sort of a thing. I know, we as a company, a couple years ago, we actually were in one of your classrooms and we taught a resume based
Oh,
class.
awesome.
Yeah. And there was a couple people who had grammatical errors that I saw right away and I was able to point them out. And one of those actually works for us currently. So
Oh, see,
he
they'll
applied
forgive
after
you.
the fact. So
They'll
yeah,
forgive you. You
for
just got to keep
sure.
working.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, I know you talked about one of the ways to shine is to actually know Mercer landmark related to clothes. Have clean clothes
Correct.
and nice clothes. But if you're applying for a job to work in a field, a three-piece suit is not the way to go.
Right. Yeah.
And then you also said about, okay, another way to shine is just grammatical errors. If you're not comfortable coming to me because maybe you've never met me, just have someone in your family member, just a fellow student, a fellow friend, just
Right.
anyone have fresh eyes on it. What else? Is there any other way they
Yeah.
can shine?
I think that one of the most impressive things in an interview is when a candidate comes in, they listen, they understand about your company, and at the end, without fail, I'm always going to ask, do you have any questions for me? Because I want to make
Yeah.
sure that I answer their questions too. And people out of nervousness tend to say, nope, I think that's it. It's really impressive when somebody comes in with a booklet and they have questions pre-prepared and maybe we answered some along the way. Hopefully we did if I'm doing my job right. But hopefully they have some other stuff that they're ready to ask or that they had prepared ahead of time. That's really impressive.
That probably goes back to the grammatical errors. The more
Yeah.
you can look like you took this opportunity serious and you want it,
Right.
the better it looks in your eyes.
Yes.
So, well, specifically, we talked about red flags and how to shine.
Yeah.
What are some of the opportunities for Wright State Lake campus? And remember, there could be a freshman listening or a senior. So,
Sure.
yes, you can mention current opportunities,
Yeah.
but don't be afraid to say, in the future, these are the kind of, majors we may want for X, Y, and Z.
Correct. Well, so obviously, the ag related are great. We also have an accounting department. So
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
necessarily think about that. I mean, for me, going into HR, I did not think ag specific. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of things that can become ag specific. In general, our website, you can go to mercerlandmark.com/careers. You can see updated postings at any time.
Perfect.
But I also encourage people to just go on and apply in general. You might not think that we have a fit for you, but we may look over your resume or application and go, this person could fit for this position. We cater kind of more to the individual and how they would make sense to us than what job posting we have out there and where they
That's
fit in our organization. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're so spread out and we have so many different opportunities that when the right person comes along, we try to fit them into our organization.
Well, and when I arrived today to Mercer Landmark to let them know I was here and find Marissa, I actually ran into your IT person.
Yeah.
And we had a lovely conversation, and he was saying about how much he loves working here because part of his day, he drives between these 22 facilities to check on their computers.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not often that an IT person
Right.
gets to leave their room. Like,
Yeah.
usually an IT person stays in the office and they answer computer needs all day long. And
Yep.
he's like, I can't believe that I get to use my IT skills,
Right.
but I literally get to drive,
Right.
several times a week. I get to get out. And it's such a good example of a company like yourself that's been around since 1933.
Right.
You could not be successful if only ag people applied.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
You need business people, accounting people, IT people.
Yeah.
And one of the things you mentioned to me before we started was that unless you're busy, of course,
Right.
you really are open to if anyone wanted to stop by and talk to you about job opportunities. So
Right.
I know for many students, it's just overwhelming to start. Believe it or not, sometimes students haven't even had a job before.
Right.
Because they've just dedicated themselves to sports in high school and then academics at college. And so sometimes it's just so overwhelming because
Right.
maybe they know their resume is going to be like, no work experience or little work experience that does not apply at all
Right.
to this job.
Yeah.
So I think it's so wonderful that you're open to have that face-to-face give them a little bit of confidence to say,
Right.
hey, let's see where you might fit. That's where you should apply.
Right.
Now go work with Evelyn and make it sound good on your resume that you can do this.
Right.
But yeah, so will you remind them, you already mentioned the link of where they could
Yep.
apply. Mention that again, but also tell us where we are right now, like the address,
Oh,
so they
yeah.
can come find you.
Yeah. So, okay. So first of all, the website is mercerlandmark.com/careers. I am actually located in Salina at our corporate office. It is at 426 West Market Street here in Salina, right across from our grain elevator here in town. It actually used to be the old utility building for those that are
Oh,
local.
yeah.
So
That's right.
we
That's
still have
right.
people come in trying to pay those
Oh.
utility bills. We got to send them somewhere else. But yeah, come by anytime.
Okay.
I was in these shoes just a few years back, and I know how overwhelming it can be. And
Yeah.
it's just about getting your foot in the door, honestly.
And you certainly will wrap up, so you don't need to name all 22 facilities.
Yeah.
But are there just to give students an understanding that, yes, we're in Salina right now at the
Right.
headquarters. Can you give them just like a couple different locations, like the
Sure.
towns, just to kind of
Sure.
get them thinking about, like, whoa, there are a lot of different towns that I could work in?
Right. So it's interesting. I actually grew up in this area and I did not realize how big Mercer Landmark was. It's a staple of this community, but we go as far south as like the New Weston area.
Yeah.
And as far north as it's like Grover Hill, Payne, Laddie area, and then all the in between. So Ohio City, Glenmore, Convoy, Middle
Wow.
Point, all
Wow.
those in between. So all those small
That's
towns that
amazing.
you might not necessarily think about, and a few I hadn't heard about until I started working here,
Yeah.
and I've lived here my whole life. So
Well, it's such a great opportunity to have a great job,
Right.
but be near your hometown. If
Right.
you are in one of those lovely neck of the woods that only you know about if you're from there,
Sure.
it's a great way to stay around and be part of a company that's just really been successful since it started. So,
100%, yeah.
well, I guess we can sign off.
Yep.
So, thank you all. Again, find me at Rice State Lake Campus. Look for further career podcast. And thank you once again, Marissa Gibbons from Mercer Landmark. So, put that in your mind. You need to come find her. Bye, y'all.
Thanks.